Hello and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be looking at something entirely new to the channel, and that is the Packers. We have almost never touched the Packers. I sometimes talk about it in videos, but I've never talked about the Packers in a single video. So I thought I'd change that up and add a little bit of a special video to the 2018 lineup, and that is reviewing the Packers 2017 season. 2017 season was very special because the Packers didn't make the playoffs, and that was the first time in a while. And because I've only been a Packers fan for a little bit, I've always been one, but too young to really get into it, and I've never really seen them miss the playoffs, so I thought I'd analyze each game and kind of take a rundown of the season and my predictions for the 2018 season. So without further ado, we're going to cue that intro and talk about Packers. I hope you guys liked that new intro. Made it myself. It's pretty good. Pretty good. So to fully understand the Packers 2017 season, we first have to take a quick step back to the 2016 season where the Packers were 4-6. Wow. I never saw that coming. And then Rodgers was like, "Hey guys, I think we can run the table." He ran that table all the way to the NFC Championship, 12-6 going into that game, and the Falcons absolutely wrecked us. It was kind of a disappointing season, but hey, getting to a championship is nothing ever to cry about, so I didn't cry. Just once. So now that we know what happened in the 2016 season, we can now move on to the 2017 season. Yeah. So everybody thought, hey, Packers made it to the NFC Championship, they might be able to do something in 2017, and that's the mojo they had going into Week 1. For the second time in the past 3 seasons, the Packers started off with the Seahawks at home. It's kind of a weird trend we've been having, but next season I don't think we'll do that. Maybe. That'd be weird. Anyway, we faced the Seahawks at Lambeau and beat them 9-17. So it was kind of a close game, but we definitely got the win we wanted, and we were 1-0. Rodgers had 311 yards and had 1 touchdown. Our starting running back, I believe, had 1 touchdown and 54 yards, Ty Montgomery. And I'm not sure who else got the other touchdowns, but that's all I can see on these stats. And we're moving on to Week 2. So at this point, I was like, hey, seems like the Packers to me. So we move on to face the Falcons. Now, going into this game, I wasn't going to be surprised if we lost. The Falcons are really good, and our defense sucks. But even in this season, after a season that we had a sucky season but our defensive coordinator was exactly the same from the 2016 season, so it's not that big of a surprise that people are still figuring us out. Anyway, Packers lose at Atlanta 23-34. We go to 1-1. Falcons go to 2-0. Rodgers had 2 touchdowns, 343 yards, and Ty Montgomery had 1 touchdown and 35 yards, and Devontae Adams had 1 touchdown. So yeah, that would be over a touch. That'd be 4. 4 is 28. That's like separate, because that wouldn't work if we had 23 points. But anyway, an expected loss, in my opinion. I saw that coming, but would have been nice for us to kind of smack them up, and that was the NFC Championship rematch, and it was exactly what was expected. Packers go down to Lambeau, or back to Lambeau, and face the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, that's easy, right? I mean, the Bengals kind of sucked, and they ended up sucking throughout the entire 2017 season. 24-27, the Packers won in overtime against the Bengals. Rodgers played really weird. He had 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ty Montgomery had 35 yards, no touchdowns. And Allison was our leading receiver with 122 yards, no TDs for him. We went to 2-1, so another win. And Cincinnati Bengals were at 0-3. But it's the Bengals. This is about the Packers. So we barely escaped from the Bengals. It was Rodgers' first overtime win in his career, which is kind of weird that it took this long, but he won in overtime. Kind of a weird game, actually. The Bears versus the Packers at Lambeau. The game was delayed due to weather, but eventually the game went on, and the Packers pretty much did what was expected. 14-35, Packers win, and pretty much stomped the Bears, which is 100% expected. It's expected. Why do I keep using that word? We went to 3-1. Bears went to 1-3, so they had a swapped record. Rodgers had 179 yards, so way fewer than the past few games by like 100. And Aaron Jones, I believe that's his name, had 1 touchdown and 49 yards. Ty Montgomery, I'm not sure if he was injured in this game, but he was injured, so that happened. But Aaron Jones stepped up, and Jordy Nelson had 2 touchdowns and 75 yards. So Packers came in and wrecked the poor Bears. Packers went down to Dallas, and in a exciting, like, seriously, that game was nuts. Anyway, the Packers came into Dallas hoping to beat them, because they beat them in the playoffs, and, want to beat them again, right? Yeah. And they barely did that, 35-31, and at the very end, Rodgers had to do some pretty crazy stuff with a field goal, and, no, touchdown, it was a touchdown. Pretty sure it was a touchdown. Anyway, 35-31. I've said that like 3 times, I think. Packers moved to 4-1. Cowboys moved to 2-3. I'm starting to get excited about the Packers at this point. I'm like, hey, dude, we're getting them dubs. We're doing it. We'd have to lose 5 times to match where we were in 2016. Stuff is working. Rodgers had 221 yards, 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had 125 yards, 1 touchdown. And Devontae Adams had 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, so a pretty successful game for the Pack. Little closer than expected. I think we could have done a little better, but we definitely did beat the Cowboys. We go out to the Metrodome. The Packers going into this game had never won at the Metrodome, but we've only had 1 game there, so not that big of a deal. And the Packers lost 10-23. Vikings went to 4-2. And Packers went to 4-2. You might be thinking, wow, that was kind of a non-exciting game. Aaron Jones had 41 yards, and Jordy Nelson had 60 yards. No TDs from both of those two. Brett Hundley, had 157 yards and 1 TD. Who's Brett Hundley, you may be asking? Well, Rodgers got injured. Some jerk. I get it was a tackle, but that was a little rough, bud. You broke Aaron Rodgers' right collarbone. His throwing collarbone wrecked. I don't know if you know you did this, but you kind of messed up our season. So, yeah. Week 7, Packers go back to Lambeau to face the Saints. And against the Saints, let's be honest here, we didn't see a dub coming anywhere. Packers move to 4-3, Saints move to 4-2, and the Packers are now, the score was 26-17. Brett Hundley had only 87 yards. Aaron Jones had more yards than the QB. That's a little weird. He had 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and Michael Bennett was our top receiver with only 17 yards. Only 17. It was a nasty game. I thought we could have done it, but no. Week 8, we have a bye week, so that's pretty fortunate. You know, maybe we can handle the Lions at home. No, we can't. 32-17, the Packers lose yet again, and both the Lions and the Packers move to 4-4. Brett Hundley had 245 yards, so a big increase from the Saints game, but not enough to win, obviously. Ty Montgomery had only 33 yards, and Randall Cobb had 58 yards. So, I mean, we're on the Brett Hundley train. We just had two losses in a row. Can't really do the Vikings because Hundley wasn't ready. Getting a little sketchy here. Packers win against the Bears, 23-16. Packers move to 5-4. Bears move to 3-6. Brett Hundley had 212 yards, 1 touchdown, and Williams, forgot his first name, had 67 yards rushing, and Davante Adams had 90 yards, 1 touchdown. So the Packers did it. I thought, hey, this is pretty good, right? Able to knock off the Bears. Seems pretty important to me. And then these 2 back-to-back games come around. Packers lose to the Ravens 23-0. 0. No points whatsoever. It was a nasty game if you're a Packers fan. Both of them moved to 5-5, and Brett Hundley had 239 yards, and he had like 2 interceptions and a few fumbles by him, I think, and the running back, Williams had 57 rushing yards, and Davante Adams had 126 yards. That was a rough game. I don't care who you are as a Packers fan. That was kind of rough, losing to the Ravens. The Ravens aren't that good, and we couldn't do jack. We go down to Pittsburgh, and I was literally pooping my pants at this point. I was like, hey, man, this is not looking good. Packers lose by a field goal to the Steelers. We tried setting up a drive and Hundley. We also tried kicking a field goal and gave the Steelers a chance to score. We missed the field goal, obviously. Brett Hundley had 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's pretty successful. Williams had 66 yards and 1 touchdown. And Davante Adams had 82 yards and 1 touchdown. Packers moved to 5-6, first losing record of the season, and the Steelers first losing record, is that right? And the Steelers go to 9-2. Was that our first? Let's see. Lost. So we are 5-4. No. Yeah, we hadn't had a losing record up until then. Things were looking a little dicey, but if we ran the table, we could do it. And Rodgers is starting to be rumored to be coming back around the Carolina game, so keep that in mind. Packers at Lambeau barely skinned by the sucky Buccaneers, and Buccaneers moved to 4-8. Packers moved to 6-6. Brett Hundley had 84 yards, 0 touchdowns. All of them were not from him. Williams had 113 yards, 1 touchdown, and Adams had 42 yards, no touchdowns. Not sure where our points came from. A few of them were obviously kicking, but yeah. So 6-6, I was like, hey, if we run the table, things are looking a little bit better. But the schedule was not the most favorable. Packers go down to Cleveland, and they're like, hey, man, we don't want to be the ones to give Cleveland their first win of the season. And we didn't. Closely. It was an overtime win, 27-21. Kaiser, whatever his name is, chucked it up and was intercepted. Not sure why he chucked it up. And eventually we got our TD. And the Browns moved to 0-13. And the Packers go back to a winning record of 7-6. Brett Hundley, 265 yards, 3 TDs. And Williams had 49 yards, 1 TD. And Adams had 82 yards, 2 TDs. So, at this point, we're like, hey, we went out. We're in the playoffs pretty much. So if we can beat Carolina with Rodgers, we'll be doing something good. So it was our last chance to get the ball, and we scored. Pretty sure it was a touchdown, and we did an onside kick and got the onside kick. We started driving. Rodgers chucked it to Geronimo Allison, and it was caught. The ball was punched out by the Carolina Panthers. They got the ball, and that was the end of the Packers season. Kind of disappointing, and honestly, the only reason we lost was because of a fumble. Yeah. Anyway, 24-31, Carolina wins. Packers go back to a 500 record and 7-7, and the Panthers go to 10-4. Rodgers with 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones with 47 yards, no touchdowns, and Randall Cobb with 84 yards, no touchdowns. Rodgers had more yards than Cam Newton by 50. Keep that in mind. So we're 7-7, and we're like, well, almost no way we're getting into the playoffs, and that was 100% true. So we pull Rodgers out, and Hundley takes over to try and get some practice games in against the Lions at home. Or no, Vikings at home and Lions at away. 16-0, Packers couldn't even score a point, and Hundley is just kind of disappointed. 12-3, the Vikings moved to, and the Packers moved to 7-8. Hundley had only 130 yards, and Williams had 58 yards, and Clark had 36 yards. He was our top receiver. Packers moved to 7-8. I already said that. Packers go down to Detroit to try and, it's the end of the season. Neither of the games matter, but we do get a better draft pick if we lose, so it's not the biggest thing. And we lose. Like that voice crack. And we lose 11-35. Lions move to 9-7, and Packers finish the season with 7-9. Hundley had 172 yards and 1 touchdown, and Williams had 82 yards. Davis had 56 yards. So, because Rodgers got injured, the Packers went 7-9. I honestly think I don't think Super Bowl, but we would have been a pretty good contender for the playoffs if Rodgers had been able to pull off the win, but the Packers were just not there, and it's just kind of disappointing to end a season like that, but there's always next season, and we do have Rodgers coming back, obviously. Mike McCarthy is also coming back. Our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator both were fired, and we have a new defensive coordinator in right now, and he's kind of getting in with the team, and the offensive coordinator, I believe, has not yet been named, so we're still waiting on a new one for that, but hope for the 2018 season. I'm predicting that if we don't lose Rodgers, we're probably in contention for the playoffs. I hope our defense gets really revamped, because with a kind of iffy offense at this point, I don't know. It's all up, and I'll be reviewing the 2018 season next year, and I might do game-by-game reviews, like reviewing each game. That'll be actually pretty fun. So I do plan on doing that next year. I was planning on doing it this year, but that didn't happen. So thanks so much for watching. I know it's kind of a longer-ish video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more Gavinite videos. And if you enjoyed this, maybe we'll do more sports talk and Packers talk in the future. So, spice you guys later.